Imagine living a life so tangled in lies that the only way out seemed to be murder. A son with a seemingly bright future, a loving home, and supportive parents. But beneath the surface, a web of deception was spiraling out of control. Until one tiny clue, hidden in a simple Snapchat location, exposed the horrifying truth. Hey, true crime fans. I'm your host, Iman, and I'm thrilled to share crime tales across times with you. Each episode will explore a new case, examining the evidence and discussing the twists and turns. My goal is to create a community where we can discuss these cases, share our thoughts, and learn from each other. So, let's get started. It was the summer of 2021 in Dane County, Wisconsin. A season of warmth, family gatherings, and Independence Day celebrations. But for one local couple, the holiday weekend would mark the beginning of a chilling mystery. Bart and Krista Halderson, a well-respected, hardworking couple in their 50s, seemed to vanish without a trace. Their 23-year-old son, Chandler Halderson, was the one to report them missing. On July 7th, he walked into the Dane County Sheriff's Office with a story that, at first, sounded like a simple case of a trip gone wrong. He told investigators that his parents had left for their cabin up north for the 4th of July weekend but never returned. Maybe they got into an accident. Maybe they lost cell service. Concern quickly spread among friends and family. But what initially seemed like an unfortunate disappearance soon took a darker turn. As investigators started retracing the couple's last known movements, things didn't add up. A neighbor's security camera showed their cars still sitting in the driveway, never leaving as Chandler had claimed. Their phones went silent. Krista failed to show up for work, something she had never done before. Then, there was the biggest red flag. No one, not even their older son Mitchell, had heard them mention any trip to the cabin. The deeper authorities looked, the more unsettling the inconsistencies became. Chandler's explanation shifted, and soon, the once innocent case of missing parents unraveled into something far more sinister. To those around him, Chandler Halderson seemed like a young man with a bright future. He spoke about his studies at Madison College, where he was supposedly working toward a degree in renewable energy. He told his parents he had secured a prestigious internship at an insurance company and had even landed a highly sought-after job offer from SpaceX. For a 23-year-old, his prospects sounded impressive, almost too good to be true. And that's because none of it was real. In reality, Chandler wasn't attending college at all. He had flunked out months earlier, but never told his parents. Instead of working or studying, he spent his days at home playing video games, meticulously crafting fake emails, and spinning an elaborate web of lies to keep up the illusion of success. His entire future was a house of cards, carefully constructed with deception, and he knew that one wrong move could bring it all crashing down. For a while, his story held up. Whenever Bart and Krista asked about school, he reassured them. If they questioned his internship, he provided fake documents. He even went as far as claiming he was in talks with SpaceX about an upcoming relocation for work. But deception can only last so long, and soon, cracks began to form. Bart, a sharp and detail-oriented man, started noticing inconsistencies in Chandler's stories. Emails from the college didn't match what Chandler had told them. His supposed internship had no record of his employment. Something wasn't right. Determined to get to the bottom of it, Bart scheduled a meeting with the college's administration to confirm Chandler's enrollment. For Chandler, this was the moment of truth. If his father attended that meeting, everything would unravel. His years of lies would be exposed, his carefully built facade would shatter, and he would have to face the consequences. Chandler couldn't let that happen. Backed into a corner and desperate to maintain control, he made a decision, one that would turn a web of lies into a horrifying, irreversible crime. July 1st, 2021, started like any other day in the Halderson household, but by the end of it, nothing would ever be the same. That afternoon, Bart Halderson confronted his son about the growing inconsistencies in his college records. He had scheduled a meeting with school officials, and Chandler knew his lies were about to be exposed. With nowhere left to turn, he made a chilling decision. Sometime that day, Bart Halderson vanished. 2 days later, Krista Halderson was also gone. When friends and family asked about them, Chandler casually explained that his parents had left for the family's cabin for the 4th of July weekend. He claimed they had driven up north with another couple and would be unreachable due to poor cell service. It was a reasonable explanation until the details stopped making sense. Neighbors checked their security cameras, expecting to see Bart and Krista driving away. Instead, their cars remained in the driveway. Co-workers noticed that Krista, a reliable employee, had failed to show up for work without warning. Friends tried to call, but both Bart and Krista's phones went straight to voicemail. Concern quickly turned into fear. On July 7th, Chandler filed a missing persons report, playing the role of the worried son. But detectives were already suspicious. His story had too many gaps, and as they dug deeper, their doubts turned into undeniable evidence. The investigation into Bart and Krista Halderson's disappearance was quickly gaining momentum. Detectives were already skeptical of Chandler's story, but they still had no concrete evidence linking him to a crime. That changed when a local farm owner stepped forward with a critical tip. A few days earlier, the farmer had seen Chandler on his property in a remote area of Cottage Grove, Wisconsin. It wasn't unusual for people to pass through, but something about Chandler's behavior felt off. He was carrying a heavy bag and seemed nervous, looking around as if he were making sure no one was watching. When the news broke that Bart and Krista were missing, the farmer's gut told him to call the police. Investigators immediately acted on the tip, sending a search team to comb through the property. What they found was nothing short of horrifying. Buried in a wooded area, wrapped in makeshift coverings, were human remains. DNA testing later confirmed what detectives feared. This was Bart Halderson. His body had been dismembered, an attempt to conceal the crime. With this gruesome discovery, Chandler Halderson was no longer just the concerned son of missing parents. He was now the prime suspect in a murder. Police moved swiftly, arresting him on charges of providing false information to authorities, a charge that would soon escalate as the evidence piled up. During questioning, Chandler remained composed, insisting he had no idea what had happened to his parents. But his carefully crafted lies were crumbling. He couldn't explain why his father's remains were found on a farm he had visited. He couldn't explain why he had continued to text from his parents' phones, making it seem as though they were still alive. And he couldn't explain why his own internet searches included disturbing topics like Wisconsin dismemberment laws and how to get rid of a body. With Bart's body found, the focus shifted to Krista. Where was she? Investigators combed through every aspect of Chandler's life, searching for a lead. That's when they stumbled upon an unexpected clue, one Chandler himself had unknowingly provided. His girlfriend, Kat, had saved a Snapchat location from a few days earlier. It showed Chandler near the Wisconsin River, a place he had never mentioned going. When police confronted him about it, he offered vague excuses, saying he must have driven by the area. But detectives weren't buying it. They mobilized a search team to the location. What they found confirmed their worst fears. Hidden near the riverbank, investigators discovered more human remains. Krista Halderson. Like Bart, she had been dismembered, her remains scattered to prevent detection. The horrifying reality was now clear. Chandler hadn't just lied about his parents' whereabouts, he had brutally murdered them and attempted to dispose of their bodies in separate locations. With both victims now found, the full scale of Chandler's deception was exposed. His carefully maintained facade, the lies about college, the fake job, the fabricated future, had all come crashing down. And now, there was no escaping the truth. He was a murderer, and justice was coming for him. As the investigation unfolded, the sheer depth of Chandler Halderson's deception became evident. Prosecutors meticulously pieced together his fabricated life. His lies about college, the made-up SpaceX job, and the desperate measures he took to prevent his parents from discovering the truth. The evidence against him was overwhelming, and when the trial began, the prosecution left no room for doubt. In court, they laid out how Chandler had spent years creating a false reality, forging emails, faking tuition payments, and pretending to attend classes. But by July 2021, his facade was crumbling. His father had scheduled a meeting with the school to confirm his enrollment, and Chandler knew it was only a matter of time before everything came crashing down. That's when, prosecutors argued, he made a chilling decision: to kill both of his parents rather than face the consequences of his lies. Forensic evidence supported the prosecution's claims. The remains of Bart and Krista Halderson had been found in separate locations, indicating a premeditated effort to dispose of their bodies. Investigators had also recovered tools, including saws and cutting instruments, stained with human blood. A search of Chandler's internet history further revealed disturbing searches related to body disposal and dismemberment, pointing to a well-thought-out crime. One of the key witnesses was a gunsmith who testified that he had given Chandler a rifle just weeks before the murders. Prosecutors suggested that Chandler had used this very weapon to kill his father on July 1st, immediately after their confrontation about his fraudulent school records. 2 days later, when Krista returned home, she too was murdered. Perhaps the most damning testimony came from Chandler's own girlfriend, Kat. She had unknowingly saved a Snapchat location of Chandler near the Wisconsin River, an area he denied ever visiting. This single piece of evidence led investigators to Krista's remains, contradicting his alibi and cementing the case against him. As the trial progressed, Chandler showed little emotion. He maintained his innocence, but his shifting stories and lack of remorse only fueled the jury's belief in his guilt. The prosecution argued that this was a crime driven by desperation, a young man who had built his life on lies and, when exposed, chose murder as his way out. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. Chandler Halderson was found guilty on all charges, including first-degree intentional homicide, mutilation of a corpse, and providing false information to authorities. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Justice had been served, but the damage was irreparable. A well-respected couple was gone, a family was shattered, and a community was left grappling with the horrifying reality that a son had brutally murdered his own parents to protect a lie. The jury deliberated for only a few hours before delivering their decision, guilty on all counts. The evidence was simply too overwhelming. The forged emails, the internet searches, the security footage, and the gruesome remains found in multiple locations all painted a chilling picture of Chandler Halderson's calculated plan to cover up his lies with murder. As the judge read the verdict, Chandler sat motionless, showing little reaction. The court sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. There would be no second chances, no appeals for leniency, only the cold reality of a lifetime behind bars for the brutal killing of his own parents. Even after the verdict, the shockwaves of the crime rippled through the community. Friends and relatives of Bart and Krista Halderson struggled to make sense of the unimaginable. How could a son, raised by loving parents, commit such a heinous act? The Haldersons had been well-respected members of their Wisconsin town, known for their kindness and strong family values. Now, their home was empty, their lives stolen by the very person they had nurtured and supported. For Kat, Chandler's girlfriend, the truth was devastating. She had unknowingly played a crucial role in solving the case. Her saved Snapchat location had led investigators to Krista's remains. The realization that she had been so close to a murderer, that she had spent time with someone capable of such brutality, was chilling. Though she had no involvement in the crime, she would forever be haunted by the role she played in exposing the truth. Mitchell Halderson, Chandler's older brother, was left to carry the heaviest burden. Not only had he lost both of his parents, but he had to accept that his own brother was responsible. He had always believed Chandler was a little lost, maybe even struggling, but never in his worst nightmares did he think he would be capable of murder. Now, he was left with the impossible task of grieving his parents while coming to terms with the reality that his only sibling was a killer. The case also shook the investigators who had worked on it. Many were seasoned officers, but the sheer callousness of Chandler's actions left even the most experienced detectives unsettled. This was not a crime of passion, nor a moment of uncontrollable rage. It was cold, calculated, and committed with chilling precision. Chandler had gone about his life after the murders, sending fake text messages from his parents' phones, playing video games, and even attempting to clean up the crime scene. It was a level of deception and detachment that was difficult to comprehend. The Snapchat clue was the final piece in unraveling Chandler Halderson's intricate web of lies. It was a stark reminder that technology, often used as a tool for deception, can also be the very thing that exposes the truth. Without that single location snapshot, Krista Halderson's remains might never have been found, and Chandler's crimes might have remained partially hidden. But this case raises unsettling questions. How did Chandler manage to deceive his family for so long? Could anyone have recognized the warning signs before it escalated to murder? Was there a moment, a single point in time, where someone could have intervened and prevented this tragedy? What do you think? Could Chandler have been stopped before he crossed the line into murder? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more shocking true crime stories from around the world. Until next time, stay safe and stay vigilant. This is Crime Tales Across Times, signing off.